Is that everything we thought our return to the big European lights, big European nights would be like? I don't think so. That's an underwhelming result, to say the least. I know a lot of people are going to feel frustrated. We got comments coming in. And I'm Wayne. Thanks for joining me. I know that today, if you're a Roma fan or if you're a casual fan, you're probably disappointed in the performance of the Giallorossi. And to say the least, Roma should have come away with more. It's a day where Roma had many chances, many opportunities, and none of them find their way in the back of the net. And Feyenoord, on the other hand, I thought played a decent match. At times, they should have been outstrength. They should have been taken over by a team who had more quality. Some of that will definitely have to be, as our buddy Marco here on this chat will say, given to the manager, to Jose Mourinho, about not figuring something out there. It's also a day which was hampered by injuries, and I think I want to start off by going straight into the timeline and looking at exactly how this match went down. All right, but maybe before we do that, actually, let's take a look at the starting lineup. Rui, Mancini, Smalling, Ibanez. Llorente was predicted to start over Ibanez, but he rewarded here with Roger getting the start, and I actually thought that he had a decent match. Zalewski, Cristante, Matic, Spinazzola. Zalewski, before I go on further, this was not his best match ever. And I want to say that this is, my buddy Galal mentioned something in a chat I'm in, that this position, this right back role, puts Zalewski on the spotlight for all of his bad qualities and doesn't allow him to show any of his good ones. Zalewski needs to be probably higher up on the pitch and on the other side of it too. This is not working for him. And at what point do you say, how really bad is Selik in training where he's not getting time and he's not being given an opportunity in this match, where Zalewski is clearly a fish out of water in this role? But ahead, we look at Dybala, Abraham, Pellegrini. Abraham gets the start, probably with Solbakken absence now. So that's, I think a big storyline of this season is the center forward rotation, and they're not being able to select just one clear starter with Abraham's form. And of course, what happens, he gets injured. It looks like a pretty heavy one to his shoulder. Lorenzo Pellegrini, I got some heat on Twitter for saying that other than missing the penalty, I thought that Lorenzo had a decent half. Maybe decent compared to one. I think I'm trying to support him. I want to be positive about Lorenzo. But on the flip side, I have been really critical in my own head about his performances this year. Whatever he's going through, this is business. At the end of the day, you get on the pitch, and there is that mental component where players need to be nurtured. They need to be helped out through tough moments. But it hasn't been, and you know this, good enough nearly by Lorenzo this season. On top of missing the penalty, which, look, any player and every player has missed penalties throughout their career, right? You've missed penalties, in your indoor, your 11-a-side growing up, whatever. It happens. It's a part of the game. However, when you miss, I'll say this, when you miss and it's not saved, but you actually hit the post and it's on the outside of the post, you got to start to wonder a little bit. But once again, I'm not going to totally throw him under the bus for that. And I did think he had a better first half than what we've seen many halves of him throughout this season. So Lorenzo then gets taken out in the second half and Wijnaldum comes on. So I was hoping that maybe Pellegrini could work through it as he was playing in a little bit of a deeper role and managed to get something out of what was otherwise a Roma, which was lacking. But we don't get to see that at all. Dybala, of course, goes out as well with his injury. And now let's look at the timeline and keep throwing comments in there, getting to them right after this. So Feyenoord's starting lineup, what we've got here was Bijlow, who was not supposed to start. It's his first game back in quite a while. Then we get Geertruida, who I was speaking about yesterday on the preview, Trauner, Hancko, and Hartman. And then Kokcu, the captain, Szymanski, and Wieffer. And then the top three are Jahanbakhsh, Gimenez, and Idrissi. Idrissi is one of those guys who's been around the Belgian league as well as the Dutch league for quite a while now, and is a really talented young player. Is he still young? I think so. But so Roma get the first shot off in the 9th minute after a free kick is met with Mancini's head, and that's just not powerful enough. Roma did well to resist the early pressure, though, but no one could really deny that Feyenoord were super motivated for this one. They came out hot, out of the gates, and we're totally ready to go. 13th minute, the balls break out. What do I mean by that? The beach ball, the beach party that was happening in Feyenoord stands, radically different from the flares and smoke show we saw a couple days ago, last week, in the game that was held up when they faced Ajax in their league tournament. 27th minute, El Shaarawy almost scores a golazo. I think it's Mancini who passes that long ball over him, and El Shaarawy does a sombrero to the Feyenoord center back, and the shot just goes a little bit high over the bar. But then 2 minutes later, Szymanski, I'm going to mention this player a lot today, puts it wide after Roma were caught uncharacteristically through the center of the pitch. And why I say I'm going to keep mentioning him is because so many moments Szymanski was able to cut through our middle to our defensive third and was quintessential trequartista for them today, and much more of a ball-carrying one as well. 30th minute, Zalewski goes down after another hard tackle from a Feyenoord player. Commentators started criticizing Zalewski for rolling around, and I think it was actually Kokcu who pushed him, gave him like a nudge, like get up, get on with it. And at first I came to Zalewski's defense about that, but then more I thought about it, I was like, you know what? Yeah, get up. Come on. Like, show up, play your game enough, and get back to work, honestly. 43rd minute, penalty on Pellegrini is saved after it's drawn off of Abraham's mark. So Abraham did good in the box there and forces the defender to make that error, which results in the penalty kick. But I thought that the penalty right before that should have been definitely given as well for the handball. To end the first half, I thought this game was a lot more open than I would have thought. I wasn't expecting Feyenoord to be as a quality side. I thought Roma could kind of like dictate them and sustain pressure while not being so flustered. But what I did see was a Roma who were jumping back a lot and kind of picked out of their own zone every so often. So that was a bit concerning to me as this game went on. To start the second half here, and keep writing those comments in, please. We're going to get to them right after this, especially if you're watching this on a recorded session. I know it's early. It's only 3:07 p.m. where I am in New York City time. It's about 9 o'clock Italian time, and most of Europe, unless you're in Eastern Europe. So to start off the second half, Wieffer gets his goal. It's a volley which goes past Patricio. Deserved for Feyenoord? Yeah, but I also think Roma deserved a goal in there as well. Maybe it could have been 1-1, would have been justice at that point. But in the 58th minute, it goes from bad to worse as Tammy Abraham goes off injured, and he's tangibly in pain. You could see him moving his shoulder around, talking to the ref, and I'm hoping that's not something which develops. I haven't checked the website, any internet links so far since the game has been over. But 63rd minute, not a goal for Ibanez. Did not completely go over the circumference of the ball. I would say it was 4/5 in the goal, and that 1/5 stops it from being an actual one. Tough one for Ibanez, who, like I mentioned, had a pretty good game. 70th minute, a miss from El Shaarawy, and in the 77th minute, a shot from Feyenoord after off of a break, which was saved by Rui. That was a good opportunity and a really bad shot from the Feyenoord player. So it's an unpredictably open match to kind of like cap this off for Roma. Unpredictably open, I think, is what I will say. I thought Roma was, like I said, caught off quite a few times, a little bit disjointed. I expected them to be better organized, a team that has 12 clean sheets in 2023 so far. But shout out to Wijnaldum, who gave Roma a spark off of the bench. Not easy. He was emotional about this one, going back in front of his home fans where he grew up. So let's jump into the comments, guys. I'm interested to see what we've got going on right now. Okay, I think Marco's in here. Yeah, he's the first one. Says, can we agree that Jose played like a coward against an average Dutch team? I won't agree with you that this team is average. I think this Feyenoord is coached by somebody who could be the next big thing out of the Netherlands, such as Manchester United's bosses. Eric Ten Hag, and he plays all out attacking football, likes to get the ball back quickly, likes to break the lines. So Arne Slot, yeah, I think he's taking this team from being pretty good into a really good team. They're not great. Marco, I'll agree with you that their quality is not great, but what he's getting out of them, I think, needs to be applauded. And yeah, I would have liked to see Mourinho go for it a little bit more. I would sell my soul to the devil, my soul to the devil, just to see Mourinho out, and I'm gonna do it tonight. Oh my gosh, too funny. Ali checks in, says, "How you been? If I may, what constitutes a top Dutch team in your book?" And Leo says, "Jose will definitely need to actually think and coach to grab two without Tammy, Dybala, and essentially Pele, as he's been." Oh man. So yeah, that's a good point, right? If you now go into Udinese, you got to figure out how to play without Abraham and how to without Dybala and with the Pellegrini, who is super out of form. Put your formations in. How do you think Jose should start the match against Udinese, given that these three are out? And that should be a pinned comment, honestly. So that's a good shout here. Sven says, "Long time no see, Wayne. It's all good, but we win 3-0 at home. Hopefully next, in the return leg." Sven, yeah, thanks for joining in, man. And by the way, if anyone can't see the live streams, or I've noticed some people have asked me post-recording, like, where's the live stream? I moved it up, so it's the first thing you'll see on my YouTube homepage now. Matt checks in, says, "Pellegrini having a good first half is something I've seen a decent amount on the Roma Discord. I don't disagree, but it doesn't nearly outweigh the penalty miss." I was hoping, Matt, that he could overcome that mentally, but it looks like Mourinho took him aside and said, "Hey, kid, take the rest of the day off and we'll reassess." Maybe he felt that he was going to be a bit of a liability after that. That's just my assumption. I'm interested to hear what Mourinho has to say after this one. Zion says, "What a tough loss, but we got the second leg in Rome." Leo says, "Pele coming off bench renders him useless for the rest of the year mentally, physically. Zalewski at right back is Jose's fault. He asked for Salik. It wasn't a Pinto Shomorodov situation. Jose ruining Zalewski's career and development." I will say, as I said at the beginning of this episode, this is putting a square in a round hole, right? Or a round peg in a square hole, something like that, right? But it's just not working. And I think, like Leo says here, we have Salik. He was brought in by Mourinho. Let the guy play. Like, what's going on there? And hopefully, yes, Dybala's sub was a cautionary one. That's what I'm hoping as well. Leo says, "Hope it was cautionary. Spent thousands to see him at Udinese and Europa's second leg." And Sven says, "El Shaarawy is so underrated and so good. It would have been really nice for him to come away with a goal today. And I think that would have been one that really cemented his place at the left wing. So in that trident, if you want to say it's a 3-5-2 where he plays as a left winger, or it's the 4-2-3-1 where he's a bit more withdrawn. Formations aside, Mourinho's principles remain the same for the players on the outside. Tuck in, work hard defensively, and get up the pitch as quick as you can. And that's something that El Shaarawy is very good at. So I wish that El Shaarawy had gotten that goal today. It would have done a lot for him, especially with just less than 10 games to go in this season. Do you know the significance of fans at all at the stadium? Alex says. This is a good point in the sense that the Feyenoord fans were outrageous today. They were really, really something else, and they showed up big time and gave their team that extra edge, that extra little boost to keep them going against what was a decent Roma side. Roma were not terrible today, and I don't agree with if you think that Roma were really bad. I didn't see it. They created quite a lot, and the difference between fans sometimes thinking that this was really bad versus, okay, yeah, they put in a decent job is, you know what? It's 1/5 of a ball. Because if that was 1-1, I think our attitude would be a lot different right now. What hearts am I getting, Marco? Roma was the better team today, Vincent says. How you doing, man? And Francisco is here. He says, "If we are out of luck and no Dybala or Tammy, what is your ideal 11 for next week?" And that's what I want everyone to write in now. What's your ideal 11? Probably take out Pellegrini. I'm thinking for many of you, given the situation right now, maybe some of you will start him, but no Dybala, no Tammy. What are you going to do against a tricky Udinese, one that started really hot in the beginning of the season, has since phased out? Udogie crashed his car actually yesterday. Yes, I think maybe last night, actually. Nobody was hurt, but he crashed his car into a cafe in Udine. Not that has to do with, maybe that symbolically is like, the wheels are coming off of Udinese's show after they started so hot. Considering the wild atmosphere of their stadium, Ali says, "I was hoping Pellegrini would let someone more experienced like Matic take that penalty. given that Matic takes penalty kicks in training. Yeah. Ivano Cardone, what's up, man? Says, this game reminded me of the first leg with Salzburg. Let's hope it turns out the same in the second. Good shout. Good shout, Ivano. Collins in here says, playing away in a full house is tough enough, but our boys were not that bad at all. And I totally agree. Vince says, I hate Feyenoord as much as Lazio. So Roma has quite a bit of history with Feyenoord now. If we go back to 2017, and I think that was also the Europa League. Was that when it was still right before it was renamed from UEFA? I forget now. Roma Gardoshidze says, Volpato back to 11. Also a really good shout. I saw Volpato's name thrown in with the under-21s the other day, but in their last match, I think where they beat Milan, he was not included in that. So I agree. Like, what are we waiting for? What does Mourinho want to see? Is he afraid that the kid doesn't have it just yet? He doesn't want to depend on him. He doesn't want to give him a shot. I don't know, but I do think that Volpato went from being this kid who was emerging in the team into someone not used at all in the back half of the season. And I kind of want to know why. I think that that's something which I wish I knew. Is if I'm not saying like Mourinho owes us to give us an explanation on that, but at the same time, like what happened there? I got to know. Leo says, Pellegrini is my favorite player. That's why it hurts. He's been impacted by his mental gymnastics being sent off today. I don't think he overcomes, but I hope I'm wrong, he says. Thoughts on Aouar? So I woke up today to like 4 a.m. some really interesting news that Aouar was in Roma's Trigoria training center getting a medical. If you don't know who this is a guy under 25 years old, creative, kind of the linchpin in the way that Mkhitaryan was last year for Roma, somebody who can transition the ball from the midfield into the attacking phase and who has an expiring contract with Olympique Lyon. And if this kid does sign, I think this could be really important, something to really work with. And Roma, slowly but surely, the pieces start to come together with someone like this. I really believe that Aouar would help our attacking phase so much and could really bring what what has often been a disjointed attack, bring it together and add some cohesion to it. So good question there, Vincent. So that's a space definitely worth watching right now, is the Aouar, Aouar. Interesting. I think if you speak French, let me know how my pronunciation is. I'm curious. Zion says, no need to panic. This was a great game. We just did not capitalize. Plus the injuries. 1-0, not bad at all. Cheers to that. And Leo says, I think Roma win the next leg, but definitely frustrated. Pellegrini needs to come back, and Zalewski needs to move from the back and head higher up. Ivano says, Wijnaldum, El Shaarawy, and Belotti up top. Interesting. Part of me would like to see Wijnaldum start because I think like in the center of the pitch, he's really influential. He adds a sense of calm, a dynamic component too. Like there was one play in particular from today where he got the ball and Feyenoord sat a little bit deeper and he looked throughout and he scanned. Eventually he played it to his left. He took a couple touches, but in that time he drew attention to him and away from the rest of his teammates. And that's something that is underrated and I think not so present in the team, having someone like Wijnaldum right now. So that's the only thing I'm afraid of, is if what happens if Wijnaldum goes up top. Vincent says ideal 11, Belotti, El Shaarawy, Wijnaldum, and then Matic, Cristante, and a back four, Spinazzola, Smalling, Mancini, and Ibanez. If Dybala, an easy win. If Dybala need a tactical adjustment, El Shaarawy is a must start. Rui Patricio, okay. Jokes aside, why is His Majesty scared of playing a 4-2-3-1? So, Marco, Mourinho has said a few times now over the past year that he doesn't want to go to the back four because he doesn't feel like he has the proper players for it. What is he waiting for? That I'm not totally sure of, because I thought that the midfield of Matic, like when he was put in the back four last week, I thought he worked really well there. Perhaps he thinks that Spinazzola and Zalewski are not good enough to be true outside backs. Maybe he feels they're only good as wing backs. It's my guesstimation here. But I have to disagree with Mourinho here, and I think that the players are suited better. I think our better module is definitely for across the back. Diego Gimenez, it was funny. I saw your name, Diego, and I thought, I was just thinking of like, oh, Gimenez. And you said Gimenez did nothing today, and that's their bright young talent. Yeah, Gimenez, 15 goals since coming over from Cristante in Mexico, and limiting that kid to very little. Give some credit to the defense for that. He says he didn't do it at home. I don't think he can do it at the Olympico. So hopefully not. 6 foot tall, powerful, scrappy center forward, strong in the air. Not a player that I like our boys to play against. Still don't understand how the ball didn't go in on that crossbar. I know. Joseph checks in, says, if Pellegrini had the form from last year, Roma would be second in the league. Hard to argue against that, no? If we had that player who was offering so much, attacking, winning the ball back from high up in Roma's offensive third, really someone who made the attack click last year. And what was that? What changed? I don't know. I don't have those answers yet. And I wish I did, but we need to see the true Pellegrini back. That's something we really miss. Does he ever come back? Was he somebody who had an early prime? I don't think so. I think this is mental, especially when it comes to something like a penalty kick. Look, you can huff and puff and be exhausted and drained and get old, but you're still going to make that penalty kick. Trust me. I'm almost 33 years old. I stepped on the pitch yesterday. I'm sweating. I feel like the salt around my lips. I feel awful compared to what I did when I was like 22. But I don't think that's Pellegrini's case. I really do think this is something mental. Joe also says, thank God Belotti is only a 1-year deal. I think he's finished. I don't know. I don't know about Belotti if he's like another guy. He's not even 30 years old yet, and he always looks tired. I don't know what his deal is, but what does he have? 0 goals in Serie A? That's unacceptable, man. Mourinho will defend him and say, he always tries hard. I appreciate that. There's many years as a Roma fan where I've watched this team go and have nobody off the bench, and you got to put in guys who are not center forwards, and you have absolutely zero depth, and you got to put in these stopgaps. And I appreciate that. But Belotti, as we do, must feel like more should have happened this year with him. So Leo also says here, I agree with the second. If Pellegrini had a better take, remember in August we were wondering who, if Tammy, Dybala, Zaniolo, Pellegrini would score the goals. Jose needs to innovate, stop being stubborn. This is another thing, right? Because it's Mourinho, he's always going to be criticized for not making enough chances. But today, Roma had 5 or 6 really good ones. They just didn't end up in the back of the net. And Sven says, I may get some slack for this, but I wouldn't mind a new goalkeeper. Patricio is not getting any younger. And I think there are a bunch of keepers around the league, and I do believe one will come in this summer, whether that is Vicario or the one at Monza. Forget his name right now, but there's a bunch of keepers out there who are important and could play a leading role in this Roma team for the next 5 years. So watch that as well. I think that's something that definitely happens this summer. Vincent says, another problem is we lost Zaniolo without a replacement. I think Zaniolo's replacement is Solbakken. It was supposed to be Ziyech. That probably would have happened if Zaniolo had accepted that deal earlier. But I think it's unfortunate for Solbakken to get that injury, because up until he goes out with it, I think he was very much the guy who could fill those shoes. And honestly, I like Solbakken more than I like Zaniolo. He just has a different attitude about him. And I think he has a higher ceiling, to be honest with you. Give Salik the start, Leo says. Rick got benched, came back even stronger. True. Yeah. So hopefully we see from Salik the same type of reaction that prompted Karsdorp back. And that's another loss, right? Big loss with Karsdorp out for the remainder of the season. Against Udinese, Sven says, Belotti, El Shaarawy, Volpato up front. Nice, daring, and I like it. If I could think of a top 3, I'm going to answer this one, my own question here. I think that's it. I think it's Belotti, El Shaarawy, and Volpato. Are there any other options? It's not Pellegrini for me. Nope, not right now. I give Volpato the chance over him. Let him see what he could do against Udinese. Thoughts on Feyenoord's goal? Who should we be blaming the most? Look, man, Matt, it's a spirited Feyenoord side, and they had a bunch of chances. It comes, unfortunately, route 1 through the center of the pitch. It's a good hit. Can't take that away. And you know what? Sometimes this type of ball leads to chances sometimes from outside the box. The majority of those missed, probably over 9 out of 10, over 90% of those chances will be missed, but occasionally they score a goal and Feyenoord gets a good one. It's just unfortunate for Roma that 6 chances, 6 decent chances. Not one of them ends up in the back of the net. And that's definitely more so than what Feyenoord can say for tonight. So as we go on, is there anything else I want to say here? And yeah, Karnaseki is the player that I was thinking of, the keeper, Karnaseki. So watch out for that one. Vincent says this feels very similar to Salzburg, and I'm confident Roma can come back in the second leg. Anything else that I wanted to jump in here? My feeling. So off of this, I'm disappointed, right? Roma doesn't get the win. However, I think that they were the better team. I think the quality is there. The coaching was there, even though Arne Slot, like I said, great manager. But I think it comes to Rome and you see a different team. You get one, hopefully, which goes and scores within the first half hour. I mean, I know that's a lot to say because Roma does not score a lot of goals, but they're going to come out different, hoping next week, score within the first 30 minutes, first half, and sets the tone. And then it's a different game. And then all of a sudden, Feyenoord are in the hotbed of the Stadio Olimpico, have to show up on tough ground against a team that's hopefully going to be very motivated and then gets the momentum after that first goal. That's my feeling. I don't think all hope is lost. I think it was a decent Roma today that was just outdone by a super motivated Feyenoord that took their chances. Roma did not. And sometimes football can be simple. It's unfortunate, again, that we lose Dybala. Hopefully that's just precautionary. And then we also lose Abraham, who goes out. And by the way, speaking about players, and you know what's been going on, I want to touch upon this with Cassano and Mourinho. And Cassano has really just hurt his name so badly with this. So Thiago Pinto spoke a little bit about it and also about De Zerbi. I'm going to bring this up now. He says, I heard De Zerbi say it was difficult to be a coach in Italy because there are 60 million coaches. I think Italians have many qualities, but they also tend to look at the negative side too often. So far in the Champions League knockouts, none of the Italian teams have conceded a goal other than Napoli, who are playing against an Italian team. Serie A has more teams in Europe quarterfinals than any other country. There are sides who play every 72 hours, and the joy of Serie A is that there are teams like Bologna who can cause problems for everyone. And then he spoke about Chris Smalling and Aouar. Chris Smalling ready to sign his extension. He said, we never hid that with Smalling, both the club and the player wanted to stay. It's not done yet, but we are on the right track and can have news next week. With Aouar, this is not the time to talk about it. He is a great player, often linked with Roma. We'll see. However, he has not had his medical with us. So take that for what it's worth there about Aouar, because there were reports earlier today that his medical was done. It shows, no pictures, nothing like that. Anyway, I'm going to check real quick to see if anything came up with our boy Mourinho after the match, and maybe if any of the players spoke as well. I don't think anything too crazy here. Nothing yet. I'm going to check actually the Italian news. It's my second resort. I try not to live translate because sometimes I miss a word or it's tough. But here we go, and I'm gonna translate this. We got a couple, and Mourinho spoke to Sky after the match, and he says, "Any news on the injuries?" And he says, "No, because I really don't know, but enough the sensationalism on the pitch, enough that immediately these players need to be brought out." When this happened, I didn't have time to ask any questions, and after the match, I didn't even speak with the players or with the medical staff. Interesting. The change of Pellegrini, was it, get out of my way, what's going on here? This is going on with ForzaRoma.info. They've been throwing this, the thing with the cookies, and it gets in my way. He says the substitution for Pellegrini, was it a choice or was it your choice? And he says, it was my choice. And what I ask of you, that it had nothing to do with the penalty. This had nothing to do with the penalty, Mourinho says. He says, one of my players missed a penalty, and it's as if we messed everything up. And he's never a problem. So there you go. Believe it or not, maybe technical choice. Maybe he felt that he needed to shore up the midfield a little bit more. But I think your overall impression was that Pellegrini comes out after missing a penalty kick. It says a lot, but Mourinho says, nope. Then he's asked about missing, è mancato un po' di presenza in area. Were you missing a little bit around the keeper's box? You know, he's the journalist is probing him here. And he says, we don't have Haaland. That which we are, we always give the maximum. We always give everything that we have. The guys did everything and gave a strong match with dignity and sacrifice. We had the opportunity to have a result, but this is the reality, and we lost. We had difficulty. We must play Sunday, a hard match and a difficult one, and then again on Thursday. And we don't have so many players to make a rotation. We'll probably lose Abraham and Dybala for these two. Yikes, guys. So for Thursday, I should say, sorry, for Sunday, for Udinese, and for next Thursday without Dybala and Abraham. We'll be at the Olimpico, and we won't be able che sempre non sbaglio mai. It's like we can't mess up at the Olimpico. Does it exist also a problem with the center forward? Mourinho responds to this. He says the team doesn't score goals and must score. Also, like this doesn't translate properly. Saturday in Torino, we could have finished the match, and we didn't. We are a team that doesn't make many goals. If you remember the match against Salzburg in the second half, we had a lot of different opportunities for the goal, and then they scored. We have this difficulty. Then we'll speak individually. Why there's so few goals with the offensive players. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He's saying then if we speak about individual players, we don't do that because we are a team. I like that. Any other good ones here? I'm just scanning. There's 2 more questions. I don't know if I want to kill you with my live translations because they are choppy. But I think we could probably close it there because the rest is just like, it's not very revealing. But I will end on this one for the Mourinho interview here. So unfortunately, on Sunday, we don't play against Feyenoord, but against Udinese, and we must focus on them now. True. So it's like you want to get your revenge immediately, right? But you can't. You got another game. You got to go play Udinese, another tricky team. So, okay. Sven asks, is Felix Fenagian only out on loan? No, he sold the Cremonese. He was sold for 7 million euros flat. Cassano is mental, but he's right about his majesty. Got to call up some Primavera players. And then I'm looking for Solbakken will be out for the remainder of the season with his shoulder injury. So there we go, guys. Throw a like up there. Do me a favor. The good stuff. Thank you. Udinese, today is Thursday. It's a quick turnaround. Probably get a preview out tomorrow about that match. Maybe Saturday morning at the latest. Once the previews come out from like Sportsmole and Gazzetta and see what they think about this. By the way, Gazzetta dello Sport is scamming me right now at $4 every month. I cannot switch it off. It comes up as an error message when I try to cancel my membership. What are you going to do? I may as well use it, I guess, right? Other than that, if you're watching this recorded, leave a comment as well. And we will talk then. Thank you again for everybody coming in and participating. I know today was a tough one, so we'll talk then. Ciao, guys.